Hi there. Well, in this video, I will show you how to successfully first capture logs of user that are using a dashboard like this simple dashboard that you can watch on my screen, and also I will show you how to successfully send them the information to their emails. So in that way, the objective of this is like the people who is using dashboard will be able to have like this self-service experience, but at the same time you will be able to capture what are they filtering and saving it as logs. So in that way you have control of what people is doing or how they are using the dashboard and who is doing what. So it's like for security purpose to save logs and actually give them a self-service experience. So with that said, let's go. Well, I'm just doing a simple example with this exercise, but you can also have like this should work with around, I don't know, at least I have tried for around 15 columns and more than 150,000 rows, and it works fine. But it will always depend on how heavy is your data now. So first of all, the first thing you need to know is that you need to create measures for each filter you have in your filter panel. Like for example here in this example you have like two categories. Well, these two filters should need two measures each one. So it means that I will need to create four measures. So you can find the measures right here. So the measures are, for example, this one filter example, and as well I have a measure for that it's named filter sample DAX. When we go to the Power Automate, you will understand why we are doing this. And the same for the other filter that I have, but calling the other column that it's interacting in this filter. Sorry. So as you can see, for example, I have a category example column, this column, and this is a column that I capture. This measure is to capture what the user is interacting in the dashboard. So this is the first one that don't have the word DAX, and the other one that have the word DAX. It's a little more longer, but this is the one that we will need when we are doing the query in the Power Automate. So with that said, I will not explain like how this measures works. You will have like all these examples on a GitHub repository, so you can use it and copy and paste. All you need to do is to change your table name and also your column name, and you should be fine with that. Well, once you have these measures created, you can, by the way, if you would like to show how to make these like filtered panels with markdowns, you can comment down below and I will be more than grateful to show you how to do that, but not in this video, obviously. So let's say, like for example, like I don't know, I just filter some clients to make the example. So let's say like I have 94 rows here with those filters I apply. As you can see, the table is filtered as well. The 94 rows should be here. And if I, for example, call the filter example one, as you can see, it's successfully capturing what I apply in here, like alta, media alta, right here. And if I, for example, call the filter example 2, it's also capturing the alta, media alta that I filter in the second filter. So, for example, if I choose some other option, it's successfully doing the job. Same right here, like as you can see. So let's set up like this. I don't know how many. There are 300 rows in there. So and let's see how the other measures works. The ones that have the DAX word at the end. So if I choose those filters, they are also capturing the same, but the difference here is that they are set up with like this custom format. That is the format that I need for like dynamically call all these filters in Power Automate. You will see it later and you will understand why I have like 2 measures for each filter. So this is the format that I need, so that's why I have 2 measures for each filter. And one thing that is important that you know is like, for example, when I don't have any filter, by default the measure that have the DAX word at the end will like call all the options that are available in that filter in the by default automatically. Same you can see in the filter example 2 DAX. So like these ones are all the options available on that filter. But the difference is that when I call the other ones that don't have the DAX at the end, as you can see, they are in blank. They don't show anything because they only show the values when user selects something, for example, like this. And with that said, let's go to the creation of the Power Automate button here in the dashboard. So first of all, you should know that before starting, you should publish the dashboard on any workspace. And one important thing that you should know is that you will be able to get more rows per flow, as long as the workspace is set up as a premium workspace in Power BI service. So if you have like a pro workspace, you will not be able to get like too much registers. So it's important that you know that, because it's a limitation that you will notice if you don't have a premium workspace or premium license in Power BI service. Well, like right now, I will just publish it and my workspace. I will replace the one that I published before, and once it's published, I will create a button in Power BI. Cool. So now let's create the button. This is the visual that you need to create a button. And this is important because the first thing that you will need to do is let's make this bigger. So here are the environments. So I will just go to this one. And once you have created environment, you need to drag the data that you need to call in this bottom. So in this bottom, actually the data from the dashboard that you need to drag on it is are the filters, the measures that we created before. So I'm just selecting them. As you can see, they are now existing in the bottom. And let's see. So at this time, I should be able to um, create a flow right here. So let's just go back. And once you go to the three dots and put an edit, let's wait. So here is like you will see the flows that you have created before. In this case, I don't have any flow for this example, so I will create one from the beginning. So you put here in new, and then you click here where it says instant cloud. It's instant cloud flow. Then so by default, the first step creating this flow is Power BI button click, because it's like a trigger flow. So every time the user click on the button, it will make all the steps that you set up in this flow. So let's go and let's start with this flow. So first thing, as I told you at the beginning, is that you need to set up like what the user is interacting with, like the thing that I call the logs. So for that, you can go, for example, to add a row into table. Yeah, this action right here. So one important thing is that you should have like a SharePoint set up in your office environment. So you can just go to call that SharePoint or find a SharePoint here where it says location. For example, I'm just looking for some. And it's also important that you know that once you sorry, just let me find my SharePoint right here, and I will continue explaining. So here it is. So it's important that you know that once that first of doing this step, you should create a table on that SharePoint and create a file in an Excel format that you should put in there the columns that you would like to capture in those logs. For this example, I'm just using what I have used before. In here's like in the library, I'm just looking for some table that I used before for some other projects. I will like use yeah, I'm just reusing it a bit because I didn't create a file for this example, sorry. Nice. So once you choose the file, then in the file, as you create the table, as I said before, you will see the table name right here. It's a table, and then you go here where it says show advanced options. And for example, I previously put some filters right here. So for example, if I would like to know the email of the user, you can find here some default option, like for example user email. The thing is that when you call to this value, at least for me, it didn't work. Like it came as encrypted or like a hash or as a token. So how I solve that? Well, I just go here to some text editor and paste it, and I mean you can select from here, copy, and then paste it on the text editor. And then what it worked for me, it's kind of funny, but trust me when I say it works. You just need to delete the word in code, and if you copy and paste it here, it should work. Like it will successfully recognize the user email just by doing that. If you want the username, you can call it like by the username. You want the date, time when the user trigger the flow, you can get the timestamp right here. If you would like to know how many rows do they download, you should have created a measure before that it's called I don't know, number of rows, and also drag it into the flow, like I made it with the filters. I actually should do that. Let me just see if I have something like that. Yeah, half this number of rows, so I will just drag it on it, and you could like drag it in here. And the same with all the filters. Like let's suppose this is a filter that I name example filter. So I could for example, I mean you should find them in here. So in these logs you should like call the one that don't have the word DAX, because that's why I create two measures for each filter, because in the logs you just need to capture what the user is filtering, but if you remember, the ones that say DAX are used for the query that we're gonna need forward. So just call the filter, like for example like this, and as you can see by default now it says apply to each, like it's by default it called for this step, because it will apply the filters will recognize what each user is applying. So this is why it puts like that by default, and it's okay to be like that. So I don't have more filters, I'm just minimizing this, and I will change the name of this like captura logs, because I don't know, it's like it's like the template I have before, but you can name it like the way you want. So this should be okay to capture what users are filtering, and the date and time when they run the flow, their name and their email. So now I'm just adding a parallel branch, because at the same time that I'm capturing those logs, I'm now explaining how to generate the files with the filters they set up, and also how to send that file on an email. So the first thing that you need to know is that you should call for an action that is initialize variable, this one right here. So we're gonna name it like initialize page number variable. Cool. So how are we gonna set up this? Well, we're gonna set as like integer, and the value by default will be 1. let me, I make it wrong. This is supposed to be the name, and this is supposed to be like page number. The numbers, the names, I mean, are important because I will, like, on the GitHub repository, I will let the function that we're gonna use in a while. And I don't know, man, I just advise you to use like the same name so you will not have problem with errors because of names in the steps below. Once we're done with that, we're gonna call for another initialize variable. Right here. This one will name initialize page size variable. The name will be page size. The type will be integer, and the value will be 10,000. Because if you have tried this before, you may know that if you don't do this like pagination trick, you will not be able to take like more than 10 or 15 rows per query when you use the run query against a data set of Power BI. So this is why we are doing this, because like it's a trick in a way that you call the values or you query the values by 10,000 by 10,000. So you don't like try to get all the rows in one query, but you make like 10 queries in parallel to take all the rows, as much rows as possible, so this is why I'm doing this, and in that way you can like go to get more rows that the defaults let you catch. So again, we are just using initialize variable, and this one will name like initialize total rows. The name of the parameter will be total rows. This will be integer, and default value for this will be 0. Then we're gonna call another variable, initialize variable. This will be named as initialize all results variable. The name will be all results. So now this is not going to be integer, this is going to be an array, and the value of the array will be like in blank, but you need to put this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is like you need to first call a run query against a dataset step. So this is what I said before, that before you start to create the flow, you should first publish your dashboard, because if the dashboard is not published, you will not be able to query it, because what this step do is it's make a query on the semantic model of the dashboard that you publish. So if you remember, I had it on my workspace, my own workspace. I mean, the name of the dataset was this one, sample tutorial. And here is the things. Here when it says query text, so you will find it on the GitHub repository. But in this simple example, you will have something like this. And I strongly recommend you to edit your query in here, like in a text editor as Visual Studio Code, because it's made things way more easier, and sometimes it's also like detect if you have like syntax error. Well, so one important thing that you should know is that what I'm doing here is like I am trying to simulate as all the things that are set up on the dashboard, but querying it in the semantic model. So, for example, if you can see right here, all the pages of my dashboard, you have a filter of this type here, like it's supposed to be applied on all the page or on all the pages. You should replicate it in here. And how you replicate here is in this way. Well, first this step is like used to calculate how many rows the the user is filtering when they are interacting with your dashboard. So this is like one of the main tables, cloud table, and this filter that I have right here, you can see if it came from a table that is Mapeo campus on premise, and the column name is index 2. So how I apply that to guarantee that the query that I'm doing give me back the same rows as the user applied on the dashboard is in this way. Because this is not a filter that the user applied on the dashboard, but it's a filter. It's a hard filter if you want to call it like that. Like you have it by default. So, but the thing is that on the semantic model, it's not applied by default because it's applied on the dashboard. So this is the reason why we need to apply like this hard filter in here. And how you apply it is in this way. You use a function in DAX that is called keep filters. In this way, like I need to replicate that this column is not in blank, so you just need to use this function and then call the table and the column. If you have if you have more than one filter, you just use the comma and call the other condition. Like for example, on other table that is named whatever, like model cloud, for example, and whatever column, and you just like keep going as long as you have these kind of hard filters on your dashboard. In this example, as you can see, I just have one, so this one is not called in the query because I commented. And the other thing is that for the dynamic filters that the user is applying in the dashboard, the ones that we set up before, these ones that I call with the DAX word at the end just to recognize them, that's the thing that you need to use a function that is called triatas. So for each filter you will call in this way. Like for example, this is gonna make sense in a while. So I'm not explaining right here why this say generate CSV if we don't have that table or function called in the dashboard. But you will see it. So here's the filter name, and the same here, like example 1, example 2. And it's the name of the table that this filter is applying for. So for example, filter example DAX is this one, and it's applying a filter for this table and this column. So this is the thing that I should put in here, because I'm filtering this column on this table by this filter, and the same apply for the other one. This filter that is called filter example 2 DAX is filtering this table, catalog table example 2, on this column, catalog example 2. So this is exactly what it says right here. And if I have like more and more filters, you can just continue going like just replicating this, and at the end you will put like this every row total count, because as I said before, this query is just to know how many rows it should be it should be have in the final file that you will send to the user on their email. So that's it. And so just copy this on the flow. Nice. So here when you see say query text, you paste this, and as you can see, all this stuff that you have it right here. Let me see what it is. Yeah. So this part is because this is the way Power Automate called for the dynamic content that you have in your bottom. So as you can see, by default, it's recognized that this is data that I have called it in the bottom. So this is why I just like edit the code in here, and they just paste it right there. But something that I strongly recommend, because this should be like for each as it came right here. When I call the variable, by default it's recognized like this is what this was supposed to be, and for each action. So the thing is that for let the Power Automate recognize it by default, I should like call here, and there you go. Now because I call it using it in here, it automatically recognized that it was an dynamic content. So let's just call it right here, and supposed to be the same for this one. Let's see, click on here. Sorry, I am messing up. This should be here in the middle, and this one was not the one I was looking for. There you go. Oh fuck. Nice. Now I'm just like validating. Yeah, and I will change the name of this step, because on the steps that I will call this is named like Genera CSV. So I'm just trying to replicate exactly what I have before, because I don't want to mess it up. So then this is like the first step on this like group of steps. The next one will be a step that you will find by searching set variable, and it's this one right here. So what variable are you calling? The total rows. Here you need to paste a function. So what is the name of that function? You need to go here where it says expressions, and you can copy this. Don't worry about this, because you will have it on the GitHub repository, but this is the code. After that, you should go here on a step that is called compose. We're gonna change the name of this compose to total page, and you will also need to call for a function right here. So you go here again to expressions, paste the function, okay. What's the function? The function you have it right here is the same. You will have it on the GitHub repository. So don't worry about that. And that's it for now. So let's just collapse it. So after this, you will need to call something like a loop. So you can find it by searching do until. So this is the set you need to call. So this do until, you will set it up like this. This will be page number. So you have it right here. It's greater than the output of total page. So what we are doing here is like saying the loop to stop when the page number is greater than the total page that we calculate by here. So this is how we say the loop to stop. And then what actions are we setting up on this loop? So in this loop, the first step, we're gonna be run a query against a dataset again from Power BI. This one. I forgot to change the name of the one to run. This one will stay like that, like run a query against a dataset 2. I will go to find my dashboard again, my workspace, dataset, example tutorial, and here you go. So what's gonna be the query right here? Well, the query right here, once you have calculate how many rows you are supposed to have on the final dataset, then this query will be like a loop query that we're gonna give you the registers by 2 sums until this condition is like okay. So with this code that you see right here, I already like setting it up. I just trying to explain you like really quick how it works. So the same. This is a little different because you are using another kind of function, but this one is calling the page numbers, like how many numbers that it came from the step of the beginning. And this filter right here is like replicating the thing that I explained you before. This hard filter, but here in the summary columns function, it works a little different. You are not using these keep filters anymore. You are using filter, name of the table, and not is blank, and then the column name. If you the same, you have more than one hard filter, you use the comma, and you just keep going with the filters. I strongly advise you, like if you have another kind of filter, like for example, it's equal to a string value or more than one string value, you should like ask some generative AI how to adapt your query to your needs. That's how I achieve this, by the way. So, and then the dynamics filter, the triadas, they are the same as we call them right here. So you can see this is the same that you have it right here, and then you will have like the columns that in my examples, if you remember in my dashboard, I have like because with this part of the code, I'm calling the index that was the first column, and the other columns that were the ones that I have as filters are these ones. So I'm just calling them in this way. You can put like a custom name, like for example category example 1, and then use this code to call the table and the column that you want, because it's gonna be filtered by these steps right here. And then you need to paste this code like to make it dynamic and to call out the values that you need to take on your query. And this is as well necessary for that, like pagination, and this as well. And finally, like you need to make an evaluate select column, call the variable that we set up before, and then like you can put it in here, like a name for example in this code, like, because as you can see we didn't like rename it right here, but the other columns in this step, they are also, I mean, already renamed. So you just like put the same name, category example 1, because this is how I rename it right here when I call the columns in this step. So you should not use this name, the original name I mean, but you should use this one. And the same for the second column, and it should work like for n number of columns that you could have. So that's all. You can just copy this and paste it on here, and automatically, as you can see, well, the dynamic content should be fine. So you should be like okay with that. This should work. We'll see at the end. After you do that, on the same loop, you should call for a compose step. So let's just search for a compose. This compose, we're gonna rename it. We're gonna name like merged results. Again, this is gonna be a function. So we're gonna go to expressions, pay the function, okay. And this is why I told you that you should use the same name, because you can see, for example, in here the body that is calling have the random query against Dataset 2. There is a name that I put it in here. So this is, if you don't like this name, then you should change the name also on the function that I'm letting you on the GitHub repository. Cool. So after that, we're gonna have another step. This is gonna be a set variable. The name of this, we're gonna leave it like set variable 2. We're gonna call for all results, and here on the dynamic content, we're gonna call the, let me see, the output of merged results. So it should be this one. This is one that you should call in here. Then you should call for another variable. This is gonna be, I think, increment variable is the name. Yeah, this one. So you call for increment variable. You're gonna call for page number variable, and here you're gonna put 1. So what you are telling here is that you are like looping pages one by one. And what's the page size is 10,000, as what we said before. So this is where all is gonna starting to get connected, and that's all on the loop. So after, I mean, as you can see, this is all in the same loop, but you can collapse the loop, and after the loop you will call for a compose. So this compose, we're gonna call for a function. The function is this one right here, that what we're doing is like trying to mix all the pages. Um, don't worry about that function, just copy and paste it. I mean that's how I recommend to do that, because this was like a lot of research and development using AI and reading some documentation. So just I'm not sure if people are gonna be able to understand like every step, but trust me when I say this word. So then you're gonna call for a create CSV table, and you're gonna call it by the output of combined results. Just let's find it. Sorry, my fault. I forgot to change the name, so that's why I was didn't find it. You should change the name right here to combine results, and then call that output right here. Yeah, there you go. Then you should call for a compose. The name of this compose should be compose1, and the function, I mean this step is optional because in my case I need to force the data to be in UTF-8 format, because in Spanish there were string data where I have like this kind of characters, or for example these. So this is why I'm using this step. If you don't need, because in your language, like for example English, you don't use like this kind of characters, then you don't need to do that. But this step is optional. Then after that, we're gonna call for a create new folder. This is a step from SharePoint, so you should, as I told you before, you should first have SharePoint setting up on your workspace, which select mine, select the library, and on the path are gonna set up for example this that I know that I have. I know that that in this library I have like this direction, so I'm just putting that, and I'm gonna create, for example, this is how I call dynamically. This is by default creating a new file for each user, because I'm using dynamically the username, and if the file of that user already exists, then it's just gonna put in there all the new files on that folder. So I'm gonna have like a folder for each user. This is the way I decide to design it, but if you have like some other idea, then you can like adapt to for your own necessity. Then we're gonna create a file. So we're gonna find like here, create file, site address, the same, folder path. It should be like the folder that where I set it up in the step before. So I'm just like here, it's let you to find it. Never mind, I'm just copying it and pasting right here like the path. And here is where you should call, for example, exactly as we set up it before, to the username, because this is how I have it in the step before. So in that way I'm gonna create the file on that path, on that folder path. what's gonna be the file name with, it could be, for example, the username. Sorry, let me just call it from here. Username, for example, timestamp. So in that way, we're gonna have like a new file for each time the user try to make it. And I'm creating it as a CSV. So you need to put that CSV, and the file content will came from the output of the compose one that we created before. So let's just find for the compose one. Should be the output of this. If you don't find it in here, because I didn't find it in here, I don't know why, but you can, yeah, you can go in here, like for example, or just copy and paste it, but it's supposed to be this one. I don't know why it didn't appear when I was looking for it. So once you create the file, you need to manage the permissions. So you can go in here and put, for example, grant access. So this step right here, grant access to an item or a folder. And here again, you need to choose your SharePoint, the library name. Here, where it says ID, you should go here and find the item ID of the create file output. So this one, yeah. Nice. Here in recipients, you should put like the same that we, because as I told you before, if you call the email that it appears on the options, you're not gonna be able to do that. So here you can put it like it can view, and you should put here like not notify the recipients. Why? Because we're gonna send them an email, a custom email with not just a link. So you just should not notify the recipients, because you are notifying them by the email that we're gonna set it up in a while. So we're almost done. Now we're gonna need a step that is called create sharing link for a file or folder. Again, just look up for your site address, the library. Here you're gonna call for the same output of the create file that we had before, the item ID. The link type is gonna be like view only, and the scope is gonna be, or should be, people in your organization. Should not be like open for everybody. So yeah, you don't. I mean, if you would like to set up some link expiration here, you can like figure out how to do that. I'm not doing that for now, because I'm gonna have traceability of what people is doing, what are they downloading. So next step will be create HTML table, this one. From what? From the Power BI data. Put in here, and this should be here. You should pick this option, and here, for example, you can put a header option, like for example number, of rows. For some reason here it doesn't let you like put spaces, but I'm pretty sure that if you go in here and for example, and then you copy from here and paste it right here, it works. So that's just a little trick. So number of rows, it's well, it's this measure that I call it, but if you remember, I call it after I start to edit the flow. So yeah, I'm not gonna find it here, but you should find it here as long as you call it before starting edit the flow. I could save it, close the flows, and then click on edit again, and it should appear. But for this example, I'm not like doing that because I'm going to go like really quick. So, for example, let's say that I would like to as well put it in here what the user filter. So you can go in here and, for example, so call for this one right here. I should pick the first one, not the one that says that, because if you remember when the people when the user didn't like pick a specific filter option filter, it's gonna like take all the filters by default. So we don't want that. We just want to show the user the filter that they have applied and let in blanks the ones that they didn't apply. Sorry. So just category 2. As I told you, you want spaces, you can go to a text editor and just copy and paste the final text right here on the header, because here you're going to be able to put spaces for some reason. And right here it's example 2. So let's say that's all I need, and after that you're going to call for a compose. The input's gonna be the output of the create HTML table, and finally we're gonna call for an option that it's say an email v2. This one. I have not tried any other option. So here should be to the user that click on the button. So just copy this. Sorry, my fault. Dynamic content, copy this. The subject you can, like, for example, notification of download dataset. I don't know. And you can also click here, like, for example, the username. And they're gonna receive like something like that. And here, like, you can call for a custom HTML. So you put in here, and then you can copy and paste any HTML that you want. The thing here is that you can generate it with GenAI, and this custom HTML it's gonna call, or is supposed to call in this way to the username, the HTML table, and the sharing link that we generate upside. So how it looks when the user click on that button, it should receive something like that, like I'm not showing like sensitive info, but it should looks like something like that. Here is the HTML table with the filters they put. There's also here the link. If they click on the link, they're gonna open the CSV table on a OneDrive link, and this is gonna be obviously for the recipient of the user that click on it. And there's something I forgot to say, but you can just delete this. But you can also put on show advanced options, and for example here put copy some specific email that you would like to. Like for example, as a dev, you can put your own email or a common inbox that you have in your company. And the same here, if you want to send is like, for example, analytics teams test.com, I don't know, something like that. But supposing that this inbox exists, you can do that, and the user is gonna receive the email from this inbox. And the same, you can copy, for example, in here, and as long as that email exists, then it's gonna receive in the inbox like a copy for each round flow. So that's all for it. You can set up some other things. I'm pretty sure that you can also generate an Excel instead of a CSV and attach it in a dynamic way here. But this is the way I have tried it. It worked for me, and I think like that's all for it. Just remember that you should. The dashboard must be published before try to query the semantic model, and it's better if the workspace is a premium workspace because you will be able to have like more rows per flow. So just remember that. I think like that's it. I'm sorry that I cannot like show you how this example finally goes because there's some sensitive information that I can show you, but if you have like any issue trying this or you like get stuck with some inside step, you can always like comment down below and I will try to help you as long as it's possible. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed and have a good day. Sorry, I forgot to say some few things. So first, don't forget to change the name of your flow. Then don't forget to save and apply. Don't forget to test it and see if it works for you. And finally, one important thing that you should know is that if you want a user to be able to run the flow from the Power BI service when your dashboard is on the cloud, you should give them permission from make.powerautomate.com, and you should go to your environment, look for your flow, click on it. You can also see, like when you are doing some testing, you can see if the flow runs successfully or if it failed. You can go to the log and see what happened. Of course, you can comment down below, and if you have some problem, I will love to help you definitely. But the thing that I was about to say is that you should give each user from here, when it says run only user, permission to run the flow. You don't do this. The user, even when they have permission to see and interact with your dashboard, they won't be able to click the flow, and obviously they will not receive the email with the dataset that they're supposed to download. So you should give them permission from here. This is connected with the Azure Active Directory. So what I recommend you is to ask to your IT team if they are able to create like SharePoint lists. So once the SharePoint list exists, and I don't know, like you have like 6-7 contacts on it, you can give the permission to the list, and every user that is on the list will be able to run the flow. So that's the way I strongly recommend to manage these things. And or of course you can like at least for test it you can do like for every user, like each user. That's up to you, but I strongly recommend to manage this with list because it's like more optimus. So that's I think that's it. I think there's nothing that I'm missing. And if you have any question, please just comment down below, and I will love to help you.